that there is only the Son of God, whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life.
What's up, peoples? Man, this quiet time that I had with God today, it was really, really convicting. I read Psalm 14, and the first 3 verses just it just spoke to my heart. So I just read that for you really quickly. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none who does good. Let me read that again because I thought I read it wrong for you. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. And then that's unquote, there is no God. So the fool said there is no God, and then end quote. And then it says, they are corrupt. The foolish people, they are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none who does good. And then verse 2, the Lord looks down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there are any who understand, who seek God. They have all turned aside. They have together become corrupt. There is none who does good. No, not one. So I'll address this point really quickly. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. The definition of fool in the Bible is a person who doesn't want to know God, who denies that there is a God, who, despite the evidence, who still comes to say that there is no God. They want anything but to do with God. I think Christopher Hitchens said this. He believes that there is no God and he hates him, which is contradictory. But the point is that the foolish, despite the evidence there is for God, despite anything in their hearts, they say that there is no God. So they're corrupt. They do wicked things. And there's none of them who actually does good at all. At all. And I mostly speak about this as the new atheism is a new big thing in the scientific community now. And many people think that if there's science, there's no room for God, when in reality, the science just points even more to God. And people look at science, they say, well, it's all naturalism or materialism. Those aren't exactly the same two things, but the only thing that exists is what my eyes can see. And if you think about it, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. If scientists really study consciousness, thought, right? Or the laws of nature, for instance. All of those are visible things that we know that are true. Those are things that we can't see with our eye that we know that are true. We know that our conscience exists. That's a thing. We know that thoughts exist. That's a thing. We can't see gravity, but it's a thing. We can't see mathematics as in it's working in nature, but we know that is a thing. So a lot of scientists don't speak about conscience because they have to deal with the fact that if they do, they have to also be open to the idea of God, who's even beyond conscience. So that's my little 2 cents about that. But fools don't want anything to do with God. But what convicted me is that, aren't these verses true for everyone? Not being a fool like people who don't actually want to be with God, but it's true for everyone that we've all fallen. And this speaks to more of verses 2 and 3. When I read this, I imagine like God looking at the world from like above, right? And he's taking a step back and he's observing everyone. And then God says, like, there's no one who really understands me. There's no one who really seeks me. Everyone has turned to their own way. No one seeks me anymore. Everyone has become corrupt. Nobody does good. No, not one. And like that kind of broke my heart, because we've all sinned. We all turned away from God. None of us does good, as in the pure sense of good, as in never having done bad. All of us has turned aside, and none of us, because of our sinful nature, fully understands God, because our flesh prevents us from understanding God. And that's why we have to die in our flesh to get rid of that, so that we can be exposed to the full glory of God. I mean, God made us perfect, you know? God made us perfect, and he just said, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But we did. We did. And that was one step that led to the birth of evil, corruption, and just everything terrible. But that's all of us. That is literally all of us. And when I think of this, I just think that God is disappointed in us. But there's hope, because God still loves us, and he doesn't give up on us at all. He gives us every opportunity to believe in him, and every opportunity to accept his forgiveness through Jesus Christ on the cross, to spend eternity with him in heaven. He continues to do that for us, even though we've gone astray. Even no matter what wicked things we've done in the past, no matter how many times we sin, no matter how much evil we've done, God will forgive us. And like, that's true grace right there. That is true grace. I don't know what exactly happened to Hitler, but let me explain to you the extent of God's grace. We all know that Hitler, what he has done is a terrible, wicked thing. We would probably call him the most corrupt person that ever lived, even though I don't think that is the case. I think there are more corrupt people than him who've killed many more people than he's ever killed in World War II. But let's use Hitler for example. If Hitler, on his deathbed, truly accepted Jesus Christ in his heart, we will see him in heaven. Think about that. God will even forgive Hitler. That's the extent that God will go for us, just to save our lives. Jesus already faced the greatest injustice in the entire history on earth on the cross. And he's just in forgiving Hitler, if Hitler, of course, accepted God into his heart. But Jesus' grace is for everyone. So no matter what things I've done in the past, I know that God has forgiven me for that. But I have to take responsibility for the sins that I do commit and try not to commit them. So yeah, this quiet time was really convicting, but I'm glad I went through it. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, turn it off. I'm sorry, y'all. This doesn't turn off sometimes.